Hi everybody, welcome back to day 21 out of 25 days of Christmas. And today I'm going to talk about a little story. It's a little weird, but we'll talk about it. So, back in 2007, my nanu, which means grandfather in Italian, he had passed away. And he was like a second dad to me, and he meant the world to everybody in my family. And growing up, I had always been that kid that was like, you know, when I pass away, I was a weirdo. When I pass away, I'm gonna come back as this animal, which was normally a sea turtle. And I would always ask everybody what they would come back as. And sometimes they would tell me, sometimes they wouldn't, because I thought that was just weird. And my nano never told me. He just, I don't know know if he didn't know, or he just didn't want to tell me, or he thought it was weird. I don't know. But, so one day, so I moved to Maryland in 2017, and I used to run and bike 5 miles a day, every day. That's how much I loved it, and I actually really miss it. And there was this squirrel. He followed me, or he or she, I don't know how you tell if a squirrel's a male or female, but this squirrel, followed me, the whole time I was running on the trail. There's a trail. We lived on, base housing, like housing off base, but like, you know, military housing. And, there's a trail, and it was a mile long, and, I was running on it, and the squirrel just kept following me, and I would stop, and I would look over, and he was still following me. And at first I thought, like, is he gonna attack me? Like, what's going on? Like, should I be worried? I remember calling John, and I started running. I picked up running again. Sorry. And, I was like, I think this squirrel's gonna attack me, but I'm not sure. I don't know what it looks like when a squirrel attacks you. I've never had a squirrel come this close to me before. And he was like, you know, you'll be fine. And so we got off the phone, and I finished out doing my run. I did the whole 5 miles, and the squirrel followed me around the full 5 times. And he was to the right of me, like, he never left me. And he wasn't that far away from me. So I make it back to my house, and I go inside, and every time I would come home from a run, I would go straight to the backyard, sit down, take my shoes off, put my feet up, and I would drink my water. That was just like my routine. And as I'm doing that, all of a sudden, a squirrel jumps up onto my fence. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, like, is it the same squirrel? The different squirrel? Am I freaking going nuts? What's going on? And so the next day, I went and did, because I rotated between running and biking. Next day, I went and got my bike, and I did my 5 miles on my bike, and on the same trail. And the squirrel came from my house, my backyard. So I didn't see what squirrel it was, just that a squirrel popped out of my backyard and followed me, and was now running with me as I'm biking. And I'm like, okay, so I went faster, and the squirrel's going fast with me. And I'm like, what the is going on, you know? And I did my 5 miles. The squirrel still followed me the whole 5 miles. And I'm like, I have to know if this is the same squirrel. So instead of going through the garage and parking my bike and everything like that, I left my bike in the front yard next to my front door, and I slowly walked around, and the squirrel was like, you know, doing a little hoppy thing right behind me. And I swear to God he was going to attack me, but he never did. Or she never did, or whatever. And I went through my back gate, and I saw him jump up onto my fence. And it was the same squirrel. So the next day, it was time for my run. And I went out the back door this time. And he was laying on the side of our trampoline. And the second I came out, he got up and he jumped down. And then I went through the back gate and to go for my run, and he followed me out. And again, followed me for my 5 miles. And I brought him back to the house, and I went inside. I told John, I'm like, I think it's my nunnel. I think my nunnel came back as a squirrel. And he started laughing, and, you know, it was funny, and we started laughing together. And I think I called my mom, and I told her, and she started laughing. And I was like, I'm pretty sure my nunnel, when he passed, he came back as a squirrel. And ever since then, you know, it's been like a running joke in the family, you know, like that he's a squirrel. And so anytime we see a squirrel, you know, it's nunnel. Well, now, no matter through the years since that happened, since 2017, there's always been squirrels everywhere, obviously, but like there are always so many of them. No matter where we go now, there's so many of them. And when we chose the house that we moved into, the first house we moved into in North Carolina, we were flooded with squirrels, and it didn't make sense. It was where we lived. It was really loud. There was constant, we lived near a military base. There's constant loud booms, and it was, you know, you didn't see very many creatures, put it that way. And then when we moved again, there's a bunch of squirrels. And then we moved for the third time to our newest house, and we didn't know this at the time, but the previous owners used to feed the squirrels outside on the back deck. And like they would make little piles and section them around the whole deck, and the squirrels would come out. And I don't know if they were a family or what it was, but they'd all come out and they'd all sit on the back deck and they would eat together. Well, when we moved here, we didn't know that. And we saw a bunch of nuts all the time, so we would just, you know, clean them up and toss them. You know, they were already broken up and eaten, so like we would take the shells and throw them away and stuff. But then we kept seeing them more and more, and we're like, what the hell? And eventually one day we left them there and we just waited. And we had taken our dog outside, and we were getting like, I don't know, bark, like a little barker, I don't even know, whatever a squirrel sounds like that weird noise. It kind of sounds like a growl bark. Oh, I don't know how to explain it. Like, if you know squirrels' noise when they're pissed off, that's what they sound like. Well, these squirrels are freaking mean. And the first, I'd say, year of us living here, they were so mean to us. They would make that scary noise at us and yell at us. They would attack us. They would attack our dog. So we had to take our dog out and keep him close to us. And it was hilarious, and it was scary. And when we would take our kids to the bus stop, we had to like shield them because the squirrels would like be really mean to us because we weren't feeding them. So when we started feeding them, they stopped being mean, and we were able to, you know, coexist. So it worked out. But, you know, it would have been nice to know that for the previous owners. But anyways, I jumped off topic. So now every time we see a squirrel, we just think it's nunnel because they're nice now, and they'll come up close to you. They come up to our door. They'll come up to our Ring camera. They'll come and sit so we can see them, and like they don't care if we're near them. Like, we can't touch them or anything, but they don't care if we're like super close to them now and stuff. So it's just anytime our kids see squirrels, they're like, look, it's Nunnel, or like, good morning, Nunnel, or, you know, anything like that. And so anytime we see anything with squirrels, we will get it, or I'll paint them or whatever. So that was just what I wanted to tell you guys. That was a cute little story. It was funny, and being almost attacked by one in our own home, like outside of our own home, it's a little funny. It's dark humor. It's a little funny, but so what would you be if you passed away? You could come back as any animal. What would you come back as? I would come back as a sea turtle, obviously. I think my nun'll came back as a squirrel. My youngest wants to come back as a dolphin. My oldest wants to come back as a shark or a lion. He's always up in the air with that one. John wants to come back as a flamingo or an owl. He's always back and forth with that. And what else? I think my mom said an owl. I can't remember. I'll have to ask her again. But yeah. So what would you guys come back as? I'm always curious about that. I think it's funny, and you never know what could happen. So let me know. Drop it in the comments. But I hope everyone has a great day or a great night, depending on where you are, and you all stay blessed. All right. Bye, everybody.